Do you realize stem cell research could lead to cloning? Do you realize that millions of deathly ill patients could be treated or cured? How well informed is the average American when it comes to stem cell research? Why isn't it more widely used? Advances in medical science concerning stem cell research are not widely publicized. In the past, the only thing that people knew that stem cells came from aborted fetuses. I myself must readily admit that I had not paid much attention to it until I started researching it for my paper. After hours upon hours of research, the only question I had is why aren't we doing more to push for more research and more advancements? Imagine this scenario. God forbid one of your parents or even your child was sick and there was no cure. Essentially, it's a death sentence. But all of a sudden you find out that stem cells could save your loved one. Would you listen a little bit more carefully to me and to what I have to say? Most know that an avalanche begins with the motion of the smallest stone. Bellman, 2006. One of the key problems with this topic is unfortunately it has no government backing due to the morality issues. But what most people don't understand is that we do not have to destroy unborn fetuses to harvest the stem cells. The lives that they can save and the diseases that they can cure are astounding. Diseases that even medicines have shown very little or no hope to cure. I believe that the average American could look at it differently once informed of all the various ways that we can harvest these valuable cells. The advances they have made in this field are astronomical. Such things as donated embryos that will regardless be disposed of, harvesting adult stem cells from a host to replicate them, and de-differentiating cells to reprogram them back to an embryonic state are just a few of the options of today. I'll prove that we can harvest stem cells without any harm being done to an embryo or a fetus. The big debate in the past was the moral dilemma of destroying embryos to harvest stem cells. People of all backgrounds could not get past that the cells were harvested from embryos, which many people still believe are a human being. Years ago, that was indeed the case. They had to harvest them that way. But one key point they did not tell you was a huge majority of those embryos had been donated by donors due to the embryos being stored beyond their valuable storage life. These were people that had opted for in vitro fertilization and had the embryos frozen, but they never used them. They would have been destroyed otherwise if they weren't donated. But now, let's just take that out of the whole equation, because recent scientific developments have proven that an embryo or a fetus does not have to perish in order to harvest stem cells. The only thing that scientists need are blank stem cells that can actually come from the cord blood and the fluid that surrounds the fetus, which both can be harvested after a full live birth with no harm at all being done to the fetus. Once harvested, scientists are able to take those blank stem cells and create a whole new stem cell line. The possibilities are endless when they begin creating new stem cell lines. Dr. Shinya Yamanaka, 2007. Just one embryonic stem cell can create thousands more, which in retrospect can treat thousands of patients with various diseases, such as Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, heart disease, diabetes, spinal cord injury, and the list goes on and on. Another advancement they've made in harvesting adult stem cells from an adult host in order to grow new stem cells and then transplant them back into the patient. The only drawback to the adult stem cells are they have limited ability to de-differentiate and they're harder to grow, so they cannot be produced in mass quantities. The positive thing that surrounds adult stem cells is that very rarely does the host reject the new stem cells. They are already using this technology today for knee injuries and people with severe arthritis. The great promise of these cells are finally being put to the test. Dr. Robert Lanza, 2011. The best available stem cells are found in the bone marrow of the patient. Doctors withdraw stem cells from bone marrow, concentrate them through a lab process, and then re-inject them precisely into the injured area. When stem cells are re-injected, they enhance the natural healing process, which in many proven cases can divert a patient from having to have extensive surgery. As you can see on my chart, these are the various diseases that we can treat. This is the millions of people that we can help. It helps cardiovascular disease, helps autoimmune disease, helps diabetes, and cancer. Can you imagine if we could actually cure cancer? That's something we've been trying to do for years. My last point is one of the most fascinating of all. Due to private funding, researchers have found that human skin cells can be coaxed to de-differentiate and revert back to an embryonic state. This research would not have happened without private funding. Dr. Kevin Egan, 2007. These de-differentiated cells can be reprogrammed into an embryonic state and used to treat diseases that involve muscle, fat, bone, blood disease, nerve, and liver. The possibilities are endless of all the heart-wrenching diseases that could be treated. Stem cells provide a valuable resource for tissue repair and engineered organs. Dr. Anthony Atla, 2013. Using this method takes the whole morality issue off the table yet again. If researchers could get the proper funding to expand on these new methods, diseases such as diabetes, spinal cord injury, Parkinson's disease, heart disease, and multiple sclerosis could be a thing of the past, enable people and patients to live a normal life without a debilitating health condition. In conclusion, the average American needs to understand that we are no longer killing unborn fetuses. There's a new way of thinking into the subject that people prefer not to discuss because of all these complex morality issues. There are so many various possibilities out there in regards to stem cell research. These are unknown factors that are not publicly told, but if we take the whole morality issue off the table, which I've shown many examples of, what is holding us back? If you have someone with Parkinson's disease or diabetes, you always hope that there will be a development to cure them. Alan Tronson, 2010. Why shouldn't we push forward for government funding to expand our knowledge beyond what we already know? What can you do to aid in the process of stem cell research? I'm going to tell you what you can do. Write to your politicians and your government officials and question, why haven't we proceeded in this medical advancement? Why are we holding back for cures? Is this to enable drug companies to milk the average American? We now know that we can make these cells, but we have to follow protocol with FDA regulations. Dr. Doug Melton, 2014. We need to push forward in regards to donated embryos, harvesting adult stem cells, and redifferentiating cells back to an embryonic state. What if it was your mother, your father, your spouse, your child that needed these stem cells and their life hung in the balance? Would it change your way of thinking? Thank you for your time. Now, if anybody has any questions, by all means, please.
I have one. So, do other countries use the same technology, or is it just the U.S.?
Actually, all countries are doing this. The only thing that they're concerned with is the other countries are trying to use it in cloning. They actually want to be able to speed the process of nerve damage so they can get their soldiers back out into the field. It's a scary process. The Americans are not using it for this, as we know right now, but we do know that other countries are pursuing it, and they are feeding billions of dollars into it. So I hope that answered your question. Do we have any other questions? All right, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Have a good night, guys.